Hey there, short video this time. I want to show you how to koji-age a steak. If you've been following along, you'll know I've started making koji, or Aspergillus oryzae, a mold used to make soy sauce, miso, soju and sake, and so much more. It's truly the most diverse culinary fungus in the world. But my other favorite way to use koji, and the reason I started making my own, is dry aging steaks. And other meats too. It's simple and easy, and while it takes a little forethought, since you have to start it a few days before you're going to cook your steaks, once you have the process down, it's something you can do whenever you feel like it at home. It's a great use for some of my koji if you've bought some from my farmer's market booth, but you can use any koji grains for this process. Now, I'm not going to show you the actual cooking process, since everybody cooks their steaks differently, and a koji-age will work with any method. But it can feel a little weird rubbing dry rice onto the outside of your raw steak. I know, because I've been doing it for years. So this is a guide to that process. It never ceases to amaze me that something so dry and boring looking can have such a big impact on flavor. All you need to do is to take your koji grain, this is broken white rice from my most recent batch, and spread a healthy coating of it onto the outside of your meat. If your grain is bigger, you can grind or blend it to break it into smaller pieces. I use a mortar and pestle. But even whole grains will still have enough enzymatic activity to get the job done, and it's easier to scrape off bigger pieces of grain later. I don't measure when I do this. It's not a precise science, so if you use more or less, that's fine. You'll just have to age it for a little more or less time to compensate. And don't miss out on the powdery white stuff at the bottom of your koji grain container. That's concentrated enzymes and koji mycelium, and will do an even better job than the chunky grains at flavoring and tenderizing your steak. Speaking of those enzymes, koji primarily features protease and amylase enzymes, which break proteins into glutamates and starches into sugars respectively. But it also contains a significant amount of lipase, so it will even age the fat cap on things like picanhas and rib roasts, giving it a complex, almost cheese-like flavor. It's great. Once you have your coating to your liking, put your steaks into the fridge, uncovered, until you're ready to cook them. Don't put them in a plastic bag or Tupperware. You want that moisture loss that will happen in your dry fridge. Koji's powerful stuff, so you can't leave them forever or they'll start to break down and liquefy on you. That's not what you want. I've left bigger cuts, like pork belly, in the fridge for 4 days, but for steaks, I find that 2 to 3 days is the sweet spot. At that point, it is noticeably dried out, darkening in appearance under the layer of grain. But its flavor won't be too funky yet. Don't worry too much about liquefaction. It won't happen in the first few days, and maybe not at all in the dry cold of the refrigerator. But just know that if you forget one of these on the shelf and go on vacation for a while, you may return to something you don't quite recognize. Oh, and the grain is edible and tasty, so you don't have to scrape it off if you don't feel like it. But it's pretty hard, it's very sugary so it burns quickly, so it's common practice to scrape off all the whole bits of grain before cooking. But if you miss some, no worries. It'll be a nice crunchy char on the steak later. Quick note, I don't typically salt my steak until after I get the koji off, but a lot of chefs recommend adding a little, keeping in mind you'll be leaving it on your steak for several days, so you don't want to overdo it, right when you apply the koji, to help draw out more of the steak's moisture before cooking. Neither one's right or wrong, so you do you. And it's worth mentioning that while this is mold, what we're doing is not really inoculating your steak and growing more mold, but letting the enzymes in the mold and grains tenderize and flavor the meat. So don't expect your steak to grow white fluff in the fridge. The temperature in there is too cold for visible growth in these short periods of time anyway. Just let those enzymes do their thing. That's it. That's all you have to do. When you're ready to cook your steak, just season it as you normally would, keeping in mind that you've developed a lot of nutty, dry-aged funk and a crisp, shattering crust too. It's not a crust fungus, but maybe Koji can get an invitation to the crust family reunion. I'm Matt, and this is Phaewild.